want to talk about lobbyists and the stuff they're doing in the United States. Other countries, they're not struggling with this stuff as much as the Americans. And when I came to United States like 40 years ago, uh, the thing that struck me, and I thought that these people are very troublesome, and they will cause a lot of trouble for themselves and other countries, is that something that was like a customary way of doing things, like every place you go, every country you go, there is a certain feeling of nationalism, or that like we are breaking the egg the right way and everybody else is wrong. But what I disliked most with was so more with white Americans is their insistence that the BS or the cultural ways of doing things that they thought was very valuable and the right way, they had a certain what they call it undeserved chauvinism for their own BS. For example, I watch a lot of alt media like USA Watchdog, and I was listening to Greg. He was saying like, despite all the mass shootings and all the gun violence that's erupting every month, there's like so many people get killed in another mass shooting. He comes out and very much defend the right to bear arms, as if it's some kind of sacred ritual or something that if somebody took these stupid guns out of the hands of these people, then the world will come crashing down and all our liberties will be all going to go down the toilet. And but this is just a false narrative. And I want to talk about the lobbyists that they collect money from their members, and they come into the Congress and make a particular disease or a particular misdeed, make it legal and customary, and that no matter what, we have to go on with this because of this and that. It goes on and on. This has happened in history many times, and it results in revolutions, or it results in social upheaval. For example, a decision that's made politically to benefit a certain minority, like taxing the tea, like the British king wanted to do with the Americans. It was a stupid tax. There was no particular need for it except to collect more money, and then it irritated many people. It resulted in the American Revolution. But this has happened in other countries too. In Iran, before the constitutional revolution, in Muslim countries, this is usually how things go out of hand, or there is riots, or the king gave a British investor or someone who was traveling to East, he gave him the exclusive right to bring or distribute tobacco. He was just like the equivalent of our tobacco company, which is today is a national company in Iran, and only the government can make cigarettes and sell them. But but that time the tobacco was only made or grown in India, and it was a crime to transport the seeds to other countries. So he basically he taxed a new crop, but a lot of people smoked or had become fashionable and irritated many people. So just like the tax on tea, and then there was a kind of a revolt. People stopped buying tobacco and also serving it, and I guess the king Nasruddin Shah he liked hookah, which is like you have to look it up. It's just a form of consuming tobacco. It goes through the water and all that, cools it off. So then in his own court he could not get hookah because his wife or his servants would not serve it. Every time he asked, there was no tobacco. And nobody would buy it. Nobody would sell it. Nobody would consume it. So he kind of got the clue that this is not going to work, and he revoked the tax. Well, usually the Iranians, because our culture is very old, we have a way of kind of going along with BS rules, and then kind of find a little mechanism underneath to upend it. So it just became a pretext for constitutional revolution, which happened after the Nasruddin Shah died, and there was another king. Anyhow, this brings out the topic of, well, when the political decision like that is made, or like when a special minority or group, like say the Wahhabis or the what exactly their new king or Khalifa is doing, the exact same thing as the other Wahhabis did, go into other countries and kill their private party, and then the majestic king come around with his big checkbook and writes big checks to corporations and politicians and pacifies them, and talks to the Bush family. What it does in society, when there's injustice, and this injustice was done for the benefit of a small minority, but it has become legalized, and it goes on and on and on, it gradually irritates many people. For example, in Turkey, something similar happened. They call it MTIAs, means like giving special privileges to foreigners to come and do business or own companies. These MTIazat, or privileges, or something that a lobby has established, that has become law, to bear automatic weapons in society, where a minority has automatic weapons, but the rest of the society, they're like a target. In a gradual manner, this seeps into all of society. It's not just like one segment. It's like a little barrel of oil has been ruptured on the bottom. The oil gradually seeps into every place, and it irritates many people and institutions. I see this like in many high schoolers are taken to the streets. In fact, Greg Hunter talks about it, and he thinks this is a fraud, but it's not. Something similar to this has happened in many countries. and then you know, just like the uh, tobacco movement in Iran, it comes up and the politicians can pacify it, or like the king comes around, pays people off. But then because this has gone on in all of society, this irritation and anger, it, it comes back after a few years. It becomes a revolution, or it becomes violent, and things totally go out of hand. In the beginning, it was just irritation or a desire to end this somehow. Anyhow, this brings out another idea or another form of torture that, well, our culture, Iranian or Roman culture, also Turks, our culture is very old. That goes back to prehistoric times. So something that a political movement or something that seems like really novel, just like we in America, we are having this problem. It has happened in different forms in our history, and when I see the same, I say, hey, this is almost same exact thing as what happened in different era, and also forms of torment and torture, not only on the society, because a certain minority wants to have illicit profits or illicit entertainment, existed in Iranian culture or in Roman culture or Turkish culture for many years. And one form of torture which is similar to what happens with the lobbyists and what they're doing in the United States was practiced in the old times. I think in the West they used to practice it too. It's like when they wanted to kill somebody, very painful death. Well, the crucifixion is one form of. It was very painful, but also was a slow killing of somebody. But also they used to like tie the limbs of a person to wild horses or horses that were unruly, kind of pulled the ligaments away. It was very painful death. Then also like making a hole in the wall and putting the neck in and then pulling the rest of the body. It was it's similar on an individual level, being killed in very painful fashion, to what the lobbyists they do is because the society is like a human body, it's one person. And in fact, if you go in a particular country, say for example you go to Turkey or you go to Afghanistan, you'll see that even though people are completely, might have different even languages, but because they've been in this same country together for historical lengths of time, their thinking and their culture, the laws, the buildings, all look pretty much like they are the same, or they're like members, different parts of a body of a person. So when a foreign or a special interest comes in and is favoring or doing things in a certain fashion, this is really similar to a kind of painful being torn apart, like in a very painful death, like crucifixion. But actually, there is a verse, a short surah or chapter in Quran that describes humanity as like a bunch of wild horses all running in, you could be afraid of getting trampled. It's because it's just like United States, the corporations and these special interests, they have become so powerful, just and so overwhelming, that they have. It's just like being torn from ligament to ligament. The the natural democratic processes or the natural culture of this place that really gave rise to this society is unable to override or unable to rectify or pacify the people who become victims of like gun violence or drugs that like Bush family trades in heroin or military establishment that gets most of the money from the government. Most of the budget goes to them. So what I'm saying is that a society cannot stay together, it cannot become one cohesive entity, and there will be in one form or another violent because it's just like human body, it has a totality, even though this totality might be very much weakened or might not be able to control different factions. But a government that has many branches and each branch acts on its own, or that has lobbies, that the laws favor certain groups and they can do whatever they want, even though it's morally or legally questionable. This society is going to fall apart. It's going to either through violent revolutions or civil war. There has to be that totality. Okay, what I see is that now these days gays are becoming very aggressive, and the gay rights they're just budding into every aspect of normal society. So what will happen is after a while, the normal processes that supposedly goes on in society, like I see that this like a guy sees girl and falls for her. That doesn't happen. Happens very infrequently. Well, the guy is gay now and the girl is gay. This story of this heterosexual relation is itself an unlikely scenario. What's the more likely scenario is more like a cancerous kind of relationship. It's just like when a human body has become infected with cancer. There's like large portions on each limb. They are doing their own thing, but the totality cannot function right. Well, the same goes with mass shooting and gun rights, and I think that for a while people are becoming into a tribes, because within a tribe is easier to maintain a certain cohesion and totality. I don't know, these ideas are kind of strange. You have to be a sociologist to look at this, but well, I'm kind of psychic, and I kind of see this stuff going on, and I want to talk about them. They're not very easy to digest in their essence. But in most of human history, humans as a species, they have lived in tribes, small tribes, not millions of people, and this moral code and way of doing things that is not too jarring to our inner spirit or inner social norm. if this is broken, then a lot of other things will fall apart. Anyhow, thank you very much for being in my YouTube channel. My stuff is mostly research. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Thanks.